All right. Welcome everyone to a free solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor. And guys, this is a first for our show.
It is.
This is something new for us. Anyone who's going to be joining us, we're not doing a radio recording.
We're not. We're just live talking to the folks out there.
I know. I mean, we got to wait for some folks to join. I want to use that countdown thing, Tim, but the countdown keeps getting us flagged by that one stupid page.
They taken claimed ownership of the countdown thing.
Yeah, so somehow StreamYard needs to be on it. They need to be telling Facebook that like this is their thing.
All right.
Unless StreamYard stole it from them.
Gotcha. That could be.
It could be. But no. So yeah, I mean, we're not doing a radio show, so we're just gonna. It's gonna be weird. Like we don't have breaks. If you're on like a rant, I can't be like Tim, break time.
I know you're not gonna be able to save me from myself.
Thank God. All right, got him out of there. No, but we do have. I mean, we're a couple minutes in this. We do have a fancy intro that I will start using. I need like a countdown video and then the intro.
Yeah.
And then like that's what I gotta do.
That will do it. Yeah.
I'll start doing that countdown, then the intro. But I know so the folks listening on the Thursday night shows, you don't get the music that comes with everything, and you're not gonna get most of it, but you are gonna get the free solution intro. I want to start using that. I'm excited. I made this in like 5 minutes on Canva, and I'm stoked about it. But
it's epic. Right, I'm telling you, the people.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, there it is. It just doesn't feel right if we don't have, the voice of Bob Savage from WYSL introducing us.
I love it, man. I love it. That is so great.
Let's get it. I think one thing, like you've seen these things on TikTok where like they have like the words that pop up as you're talking. We gotta get that for like the whole intro somehow.
Yeah. There's such creativity on TikTok. My TikToks are so lame compared to some of them.
Just gotta keep working hard. You're doing better than most folks on TikTok.
Well, yeah, it's because the ladies that slide into my DMs, they just keep following me by the hundreds. It's awesome. Don't tell my wife I said that.
I was about to say, is she within listening distance?
Well, I don't know. She's probably not watching the show, but
oh my goodness,
she's probably doing is watching some Johnny Depp movie, because honestly, that's like the biggest thing going on in the world right now is this Johnny Depp.
I cannot bring myself to like pay attention to this. Like I know some people are glued to it, but I'm like,
they are.
I don't know. Like I've been like sweating policy issues, which is like why we do this show, right? Like
right.
As I obsess over this, like I want to talk about all the stuff Kathy Hochul said on Wednesday. Like in the middle of my show, she's doing this press conference, and I'm just like reading tweets out for the last segment of my show. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's talking about micro-stamping bullets and getting rid of any other weapon, and cracking down on social media companies and blah blah blah.
Yeah, she wrote an executive order, Kevin, where basically she's empowering the New York State Police to go into people's houses to stalk their social media accounts, but I hate to be like, in a way, we had governmental systems in place that have failed numerous times in these situations. There's reports now that this kid's been reported to the FBI, that this kid was a threat, and we didn't do anything, or we didn't obviously do enough
for their part. The state police in this area were, and like I sort of get this, right? Like, because I don't know exactly what the balance is, right? Like the state police in this area are like, look, he had said some weird stuff in like a class, where he talked about like the way he was going to retire was murder, suicide, like making dark jokes. And they did like a, mental health assessment on him, but it wasn't enough to like detain him, supposedly, right? Like and I get that, right? Like you don't want to, take it too far and detain people as precaution. Same criticism of the red flag law. Like the things that we worry about is that someone's just going to call a tip because like they're mad at someone because they're just trying to get the police to hurt them, and
Correct.
it's not someone who is actually a danger to themselves and others. And then suddenly you have this unjust system where your rights are taken away as a precaution, and the remedy for getting them back is both long and expensive.
Again, we hit these. Yes, your right to defend yourself is absolute. And
Yeah,
so how
and
do we deal with the
he was
balances of
18, by the way,
yeah,
Shelley.
he was 18.
So
And look, I guess I feel like I want to say this, and I don't know how important it is to say it, but I'm not pro death penalty. Okay, I never have been. It's never sat right with me, and I remain consistent there. Like even
no.
here, as
So
much
even in
as
cases like this where it's like really clear that like this, I mean, he did it. It's not like an accusation. I mean, like there still has to be a trial, but it's pretty clear he did it.
yeah, I still kind of am queasy about. I'm queasy about empowering the state to kill people. So
Yeah.
yeah, this guy, if we have a death penalty, like sure, okay, I get it, do it, but it still
New York
to
State
me
doesn't.
right, but to me it doesn't feel right to want that. I don't know why. Okay, maybe it's in my heart. Maybe it's some my connecting with a higher power, guys. I don't know, but I just don't like the notion that the state is empowered to kill people for whatever reason. He can rot in jail for the rest of his life. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean that I tend to agree with you. Like I'm not pro death penalty. And it doesn't sit right with me. Like giving the state the power to execute people goes wrong so often, even in cases where it's crystal clear that this guy committed 10 murders and
right,
shot what 3 other people. Like even though it like no one's doubting that for
right.
real. Um it's still this is more the exception than the rule. And what happens all too often is that like the system doesn't quite get it right. And for those, it's not most of the time, but like enough times where it's better to have the state not have that power because you can't take that back.
Yeah, you can't take it back. And to me, it just feels like too much power, I guess, granted to the state. And as everybody knows, I'm anti-authoritarian. I do believe that criminals should be punished, especially people that commit violent crimes. Like absolutely, there's no. I'm absolute in that belief as well. Like this kid needs to be not a part of society forever, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
again, I just think that empowering the state to kill people is also wrong. That I guess is it. Also want to give a shout out to Aaron Salter. I know like this is a sensitive issue, but this guy stood up. He did what was right, and it cost him his life, guys. And so
Yeah.
he stopped the shooter from progressing anyway. And I know he didn't kill the kid, but you know he's a hero, man. He's a
Yeah.
hero.
That's all you can do, right? It's just do what you can.
Your everyday guy is a hero. Then when they stand up,
Yeah.
that's the way it works.
Yeah. But
I
I
should have
said I do want to make sure, again, like, because I don't know if you want to like jump on any more of the policy issues. I covered a few of them, you know, the other day, but Monday and Wednesday, I know folks like it's funny because I've seen some folks saying, I'm not throwing any shade, but like, oh, like we need to just talk about like the white supremacy aspect of this and like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, like that is part of this. Like I get it, but also like there's gonna be all these other policy consequences that are going to come out of it too. Like how do we deal with that? What does that mean for civil liberties? What does it mean for gun rights? What does it mean for policing social media?
And so, will any of those new policies make anybody any safer from a person that wants to commit an episode of mass violence? Like, seriously, like
Yeah.
disempowering and making more law-abiding citizens, owners of illegal weapons. How is that going to solve anything? We're just making weapons illegal and turning regular people into criminals, and we've already done it, and we're going to continue to do it. And I don't see justice there. And I'm an absolute believer in self-defense, guys. Like that's reality. So, and I said, I don't know if you caught my show with Sean Hayes last week on Thursday, but I want people to understand that I believe that gun control on some level is an enforcement of racism, and it's an enforcement of economic bigotry. And every time we move in that direction, that's who gets hurt by this stuff. That's it. People who are poor and people who are in minority communities. And I'm tired of it. And it goes all the way back to Ronald Reagan, whom was funny, witty, smart, and said great things, but also used gun control and used a fear of race to gain some popularity. And I want people to understand that too.
No, that's part of his legacy. Like the crackdown on guns in California, like really accelerated with Ronald Reagan because they were trying to go after the Black Panthers.
The Black Panthers were a convenient tool. People that wanted to stand up for their rights and their liberties in their communities, and they were a convenient tool to fear monger. Now, were they dangerous? Was Huey? Those guys were they dangerous? I don't know. I mean, I was a kid then, so it's hard for me to interpret that.
So not like I don't know. I don't know if I want to go into a whole history lesson of that, but again, not in a way that justified Ronald Reagan taking away rights from everyone else,
from everybody all over the country forever and ever. That's how it worked out.
And like I said, you're right. Like with the gun control being like a race thing, I thought like how it most often gets enforced against people of color. Like that's like what it is. Like even like people who legally own their guns and they're doing everything right. That's what's going on. And I know Brian says the Brady bill under Reagan. I thought that was under Clinton. Was it under Clinton?
It was in honor of Brady, who got shot under Reagan, right? Oh, okay. And then the law came about through the action of Brady's wife, and it was empowered under Clinton. If I remember history correctly, because I'm not sure that I do, but that sounds how, if I remember right, that's how it went.
Yeah, might have been it, but I mean, it's still. Yeah, I mean, it ends up being like a bipartisan thing that it doesn't. Again, in this case,
gun control is bipartisan.
it sure is, and again, in this case, like it didn't actually prevent this from happening. It's like, oh well, now we got to go after even more rifles that again would have been illegal under the current circumstances. And so it's not going to help, and it's just going to make things tedious, and it's going to turn legal gun owners into felons. And again, I think this is part of like what's worth talking about too. Again, I kind of disagree with the folks who are like, this isn't a race issue at all. This is just a gun control issue, and that's why he did it. I'm like, no, he definitely like went to do this because of racism, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill Black people.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I also want to turn a piece of the spotlight on this on in fact the government and its response to COVID, okay, and what they did to young men and women.
Yeah.
Certainly the isolation, and certainly forcing them to sit around their houses and take computer school. And look, we had in our little town, we had people looking out their window, seeing kids going and playing basketball and calling the police on them, right? In small town, rural, upstate New York, they see a group of kids together and they felt empowered to call the police on them. And so what would those kids do? Then they go home and they play video games. And how long can they play video games? They can play video games for 18 to 24 hours a day, and it makes them sick, okay?
Yeah.
And so they find an ideology and they get obsessed with making noise when they start and that's what happened to this kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, like again, I've met people in my life again who haven't turned to violence, but I've seen this pattern with folks, because you'll see them in the LP sometimes too, like folks who are just like looking for something, like a cause that is greater than themselves, and they're like, everything, like there's this external force that is ruining my life, and if it weren't for this external force ruining my life because I'm sad and I feel like a loser and I feel like I have no hope for the future, and they'll switch what that external force is, right? Say, oh, it's the government. Oh, it's the corporations and the rich. Oh, it's whatever minority group they're going after. If you go in that Nazi direction, and again, if it's Black people, it's Jews, it's the immigrants, whatever. You blame that external force for what is going on in your life and attach yourself to this cause. And then people do something radical because they want to make a name for themselves in that cause because they feel like that is the only way out. And again, I'm not justifying this kid's actions in any way. It's just that like you start to see these patterns in people. And again, I don't know if you've ever seen, again, I've met people like this in the party, and they're like, oh yeah, I used to be a communist, and then I became a libertarian because like I used to think I hated the corporations, but it's actually government that I hate.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Anytime anybody says they hate the government, I get sympathetic, but it's not. We have to kind of remember that the government's composed of people, and that on some level we empowered them. All right, there's this give and take, and so I say I hate the government. I say, but what I'm really saying is I hate the systems that have developed and the systems that empower it, and the way that they cause us this reactive mindset. They use it to force us into reacting, and then they force us into reacting at our neighbors who see things slightly different than us. And that's something I want the world to put behind them. That's why I talk to people regularly in public. That's why I talk to people through this show to the best of my ability. And that's what I want to change. But yes, there are people that need causes to latch onto, that need that, like, people get mad about religion because they feel like it presents certain inaccuracies. But religion presents a certain set of behaviors for a certain group of people that they're like, hey, follow these rules and your life's going to turn out okay. And that may not have hurt society so badly, I guess is how I would say it.
It can be a good thing or a bad thing, right?
That's for sure.
Sometimes it can provide a positive structure to build community on, and other times religions will say, hey, do you want purpose and you want to go to heaven? Well, go out and kill some people in the name of your religion. Okay. So
right. And then there's the other part of religion where it's like, hey, we don't kill people, we turn the other cheek, and we do what's right. And then people can also glom onto those rules who need that kind of structure. And so, but the Libertarian Party is interesting because we are in the middle of like a big battle against, I think, the entrenched systems of the state, where I'm asking people for signatures for our friend Larry. And every single time, Kevin, almost every single time they say, well, is he a Democrat or is he a Republican? And I'm like,
yeah,
got you there. This is going to seem tricky, but he's a libertarian. And we have a collection of great candidates. We have basically three libertarians, but one of the libertarians is a former Democrat. And perhaps you guys saw him on the show last week, Sean Hayes, and he's a very genuine individual, and he was a great communicator, a very Irish style of communicating, which you and I probably love, like I in particular enjoy it. So then we have Andrew Hollister, who started a Free Solution and as Radio Free New York, and certainly supported it. He's running for lieutenant governor. We've got our buddy Thomas Daniel Queter out of Mount Upton, guys. Like that's he wants to beat Chuck Schumer, and he wants to go to the federal Senate.
He doesn't want to be Chuck Schumer. He just wants to replace him.
There we go. He wants it. I think one of his campaign slogans is he wants a Chuck Schumer out a window. I don't know. Maybe I heard that, but I don't think it's actually trying to infer violence or a call to violence. I think it's a joke.
He wants to Chuck Schumer, right?
He wants to Chuck Schumer out a window. I may have seen that somewhere. I don't want to label and accuse Tom of using that slogan. I'm just saying maybe some people say that.
Yeah, why not? But no, I mean, in the petition process as well, because if you guys caught my show on Wednesday, we had Jonathan Howe calling. He's running for Congress against AOC, and a lot of libertarian candidates got their petitions thrown out because, like, oh yeah, you got redistricted, so some of those signatures might not count. So just start over.
Jonathan Howe had 1,000 signatures that he just has to start over for. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm incensed by that. And that's another
reason. Yeah, you're out doing it. You know how hard it is to get 1,000 signatures. Like it's work. It's work from likely a lot of people. And I know in his case, it certainly was.
I don't think people understand what the entrenched power system does in New York State. Okay. With them, like, they institute campaign finance laws that grant them $100 million, that raise ballot access for third-party candidacies, that it's It's an amazing thing what entrenched power can do. And then even look at the whole gerrymandering issue that is still being tossed around in court. That is still a train wreck, and that started part of Jonathan Howe's problem, and with no resolution. The judge is just like, "Sorry, thanks for stopping by. You could complain if you want to, but this is completely a legit legislative issue and action."
Yeah. I mean, I know they still have another court date coming up, as I understand it, and hopefully they'll at least be like, okay, well, you don't have to collect this many signatures or something, but we'll see.
Boy, I just
It's a mess.
well, luckily we have a guy like Jonathan down there running against AOC who is actually determined enough to try to figure this out, right? Because a lot of people would just roll over and give up. All right, I put in the effort, now I'm screwed. But Jonathan, like a lot of libertarians when they set their mind on something, right? They're able to follow through and keep working at it. So that's good.
I do appreciate, because it's easy to just be like, well, that stinks. The two-party system smashed me again, and I'm just going to complain about it on Twitter, and like that's the end all be all. No, he's like, I good for him on trying to fight it, and I know he's probably going to do it, and his team is going to do everything they can to make sure they get on the ballot. And Brian's like, you know, costs like $5 a signature. Yeah, like if you're paying petitioners, like it's it's kind of expensive. I mean, if anyone wants to petition, I know someone who's paying. You know, I can hook you up with folks.
Oh yeah, how much are they paying? Because I'm going out and getting signatures, and if I could put some cash in
not you, Tim. Tim, you don't get the money. Not you.
Dang it! Because if I could put some cash in the Otsego County Libertarian Party, you know, into their bank account, I would do it. But I mean, they can have the first 80 or so that I've gotten for free, plus the 20 I grabbed when I was up in Cobleskill. But from here on out, I'll take $5 a signature.
There you go. How generous.
Such an incentive for corruption there, though. I just want to be honest. I just say it. I'm not saying that paid petitioners are corrupt, but if they sat at a desk and forged 100 signatures, they just made $500. That's it. That's what happened. Just saying.
Well, you know, I mean, that's why you gotta get people. You know, you check the first few. Like again, I've done this before. You know, you when you pay people to check the first sheet. Okay, these are all legit signatures from legit registered voters. If their error rate is greater than a certain percent, or you know whatever, then you toss it out. Or if you're paying them hourly, you know, you expect them to get a certain rate per hour, that type of thing, you know. And if they're not doing that, because I've heard of other people who've gotten these jobs like, oh yeah, I got an hourly rate to collect petitions, so I sat and drank a coffee for 45 minutes, and then I went and got like 3 signatures. I'm like, okay, you're kind of scamming them there.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this though, guys. It's one of the easiest sells ever. Can you help get my friend Larry and Tom on the ballot? One wants to run for governor and one wants to run against Chuck Schumer. All they want to do is get on the ballot. And besides the after they ask whether they're Democrat or Republican, they almost always sign. I mean, my success rate, if I have to guess, is 7, 8 out of 10. Every once in a while, somebody says no, and
you're very persuasive, Tim.
I don't think it's me. I think it's just the fact that which is bearing out with the statistics, Kevin. If we pay attention, there was a Zogby poll back in January that say 75% of people in New York recognize that the two-party system is actually in and of itself part of the problem, that we don't actually have democracy because we don't actually have all the views on the table. And you guys that are in the Conservative Party and you guys that are in the Working Families Party need to take a look at what your party leaders do, because all they really do is endorse the Democrat candidate or the Republican candidate. And now the Working Family Party had some success in getting rid of some moderate Democrats. Congratulations. But like, that's what the real situation is. Okay. They're rubber stamps.
Yeah, I know.
Uniparty.
Does feel like uniparty. It does kind of feel like that.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So yeah, I don't know. The redistricting process is going to be fun. I mean, who knows if this is even the final map too? Like,
chaos. It's
yeah,
chaos.
just what absolute mess. And again, Jonathan pointed out on my show, like, this is a mess of the Democrats' own creation too, and they're not really facing the consequences. Even if they failed to get the number of signatures necessary, they get another crack at it, like a little bit later. But like the independent candidates, the Libertarians, the Greens, what's the other one? Like the Unite Party too. Even them, they're if they're running any down ballot candidates, they're gonna have to start over.
It's an amazing, insensitive act of power by our supposedly democratic or democracy-oriented power gluttons. I mean, I don't know what else to call them. I don't even like to devolve into name calling, but what they do is amazing, and how they justify it is juvenile. And so I'm hearing rumors, and I got a link to an article about how the Democrats are really, with the new redistricting of the redistricting, are really fighting with each other, because now some Democrats are in conflict for seats, and it's just turning into an absolute nightmare. They're calling each other that standard names of, there's just what they always devolve into. I'm not sure if should I go into it. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, if you want it, but yeah, I mean, when you end up with sometimes several Democrats in one district, and then they start breaking out with their normal attacks that they break out against everyone. Sometimes it's you're in the pocket of the corporations, sometimes you're racist. Whatever it is.
They're the rumor has it it's both of those two are big
Yeah.
big arguing points, like you're a racist, and like they're calling, I think it's Jerry Nadler, because he kind of leads the commission on the redistricting concept, and party power boss say, well, who's going to win this district and who's going to win that district, and should you guys have a primary? And look, guys, primaries are the two-party system. Neither one of those parties actually wants a real primary ever. Like, I want to be very clear about that, because they feel as though it's divisive and it divides the party. And so I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't convince all of the guys to just get in line behind Zeldin this year for the Republican Party, that they're actually going to have a primary. I'm kind of impressed in a way.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it ends up being an actual competitive primary. I don't know. Who knows if it will be.
It could be. They do have two compelling candidates. Derek Gibson and Andrew Giuliani. Derek was on the show with me, and Derek was very compelling. Like, I enjoyed talking to Derek. Now, Andrew Giuliani, I'm not sure. Like, I know he's popular in New York City. I'm a little surprised.
I mean, he's just running off of his dad. I don't know. Like, I don't see nothing close to him. Like, Derek Gibson certainly has an angle, and again, I've seen that.
I liked his vibe, bro. I really did. I enjoyed him, and he was like a little bit of we're not putting people in jail for weed anymore. And the libertarian part of me was like, yeah, that's great. And he's like, but we're gonna bring in the National Guard to quell the violence in New York City. And I'm like, hey, can we do a little bit something different there? But there is a crime problem in New York City, and there's a violence problem in New York City, and that's real. So I get the desire for a real response to it, and we I think that the people in charge right now are trying to just gloss over it and pretend that it's not happening. And I think that's going to cost them at least some votes in New York City, because it's less safe than it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, like, people like Eric Adams are certainly talking about it more, which is probably why he did well and won his election. Just acknowledging oh yeah, there is a rise in violence, and we should make some plans to do something about it. Same with again, the Rochester mayor here, it's not always the right solution. It's not a solution I agree with, but he's like, hey, we need to do something about violence. This is a thing. This isn't just a Republican talking point. Like, our neighbors are dying. Let's take some action.
Yeah. It's a big deal. Sean was talking about it last Thursday. He's got a good angle. I just think that we need to be proactive, and I think that Larry's discussions about how we change the culture in New York, I think they always have value. I think that
Yeah.
we're an angry state. Like I've been hanging out in Connecticut doing some work. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, you New Yorkers. People in Connecticut are pretty friendly. It's multicultural. It's like, and everybody's like, have a nice day, and everybody holds the door for each other, and everybody drives like lunatics, but nobody gets mad at each other. It's like they're all driving crazy, but you hardly ever hear a horn beep or anything. They just accept each other,
I don't know, I
man.
feel
And
like I only
you know,
ever hear horn beeps when I'm in New York. It's like how they say hello to each other every
is that
single
it?
time. Just like I was down in Miami for my friend's bachelor party. Like the traffic there is like it's not quite as bad as New York, but it's pretty aggressive in Miami Beach. No one's honking horns though. Like not unless you do something like really bad. New York, like it's just beep, 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 constantly
It's
for
like,
everything.
oh look, the
Drives me
light's
nuts.
green. Beep 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 beep. It's like
Yeah, but like it's been half a second, bro. Come on.
it's like
Is the most stressful thing in the world driving from like Washington Heights to Brooklyn for like a party a few years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. This is terrible.
yeah, stop and frisk, Shelly. Check this out. His daddy did stop and frisk. That didn't work. It's funny because there's still an argument. I think Derek Gibson was saying maybe there is an argument for stop and frisk, but it certainly empowers the police officers with
Yeah,
the ability to
I
violate
know. Like
people's rights.
the actual success rate on that is like not great. Like it's way more of just like harassing people who are, you know, not really doing anything wrong. And it's if you're gonna get that many innocent folks. And like half the time it's like you do the stop and frisk because like, oh, maybe you have a gun on it, and they find like a tiny ounce of weed, at the
Right.
time when that was started, like, okay, now we're gonna bring you in. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that ain't
Yeah.
right.
Stop and frisk was definitely an infringement on people's rights. That's it. I don't think anything else needs to be said. I'm glad it's gone. I still don't
Yeah.
want violence in the city, and I don't think that stop and frisk was the real solution.
No. Um, like I think we've only managed to talk about like one of the things we plan to talk about.
Oh,
So
you know me, Kevin. I can't pay
I know
attention to
we're like just like on so we got let's see, we got like the formula stuff that we
Oh
want
yeah,
to
we
talk
got to do
about.
let's do a segment on the formula
All
stuff
right,
for
yeah, we
sure.
should do a formula. So, because like, yeah, this is something that like matters to me, right? Like my son, he's over a year old now, so like we're getting him off the formula, but like we still use it a little bit because like he needs the calories, right? He's a little
Yeah.
guy, like he's a very small baby, and like that's what he likes to consume. So we're gonna get him formula, even though we're cutting it down. So with us, as explained to you before the show, like I could still find it's just that like with us we would look at like the Target app and we'd say, okay, Penfield store, nope, that doesn't. Webster store, they got it. No, Rondecourt store, okay, a Rondecourt store has it. We'll put it in order there, right?
Yeah.
Like it'd be stuff like that. So like for us it's not like that bad. For other folks, like if you're you know not doing that pickup, you're not taking advantage of that, and you're taking a trip out to the store and then like they don't have it, or if you're taking a bus out there, that
It
stinks.
sounds
And like
like
there's a lot of mom groups in Rochester like, hey, I need like this specific formula. That's all my kid will eat or all my kid can eat.
yeah.
And do you have it? Can you find it? Can I pay you money to do that? Which
So let's talk about the incompetent government strategy that kind of led to this situation. All right. But first, two things about baby formula. Number one, you guys can make your own. Number two, you
uh-huh.
can't necessarily make the most interesting forms of baby formula. I did work on a baby formula ingredient plant. This whole plant makes one ingredient for baby formula, and it's the most amazing thing. They buy like fresh milk from dairies, local dairies, right? And they put it like into beakers and they just shake the beakers for like a week, just jiggle them like this, like so they have these big, huge gallon sized beakers, and then it breaks into separate layers. And then there's one specific layer that is one specific ingredient for baby formula, and it takes like weeks and weeks and weeks to make. Okay. And so I don't know what's happening to them with the final baby plant or baby formula plant not producing anything. But this ingredient takes weeks to make, and it's incredibly expensive. So I can't imagine what's going on. But do you want my recipe for baby formula, or should I maybe
Oh
not
goodness,
offer
what
it
are you
on
gonna
there?
do? You're gonna get us kicked off Facebook. That's what
No,
you're
no,
gonna do.
it's
With
really. I mean, back in the day, right? It really, you just take some evaporated milk, you add some K rose syrup, and a couple ounces of water. You shake that stuff up, you divide it into bottles, and the kids grow like crazy on it.
I mean, I have seen that recipe on Facebook, and like to me, I'm like, it's a probably not the best thing to do, right? Modern formula has like a whole bunch of other different vitamins in it, iron,
Sure.
which isn't in breast milk but is in formula, and you know. I at first I thought like, oh, like the corn syrup thing, the carrot syrup is like crazy, like that's a weird thing, like
Yeah,
boomers did, right? But you look
little
at like some of
sugar.
the ingredients in like modern formula, though, like the second ingredient's like corn syrup. It's like
It
corn
is,
syrup
right?
solids. Yeah, so it's quite the Shelly. I made homemade formula and CPS showed up.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
doubt
that's.
that. I
I mean,
just don't
it's
doubt
not
that.
like you do have to be careful, right? Like if you get the water balance wrong, especially with like newborns, it's a serious thing, right? Like you gotta really make sure you get it right. And it's not. There's a reason why you shouldn't mess with that. Like I remember, like when we brought my son home, and like we had to like give them some formula or like some like supplemented like breast milk and stuff. And they're like, hey, listen, you have to measure this exactly right, especially for a preemie, because their kidneys can't handle too much or too little balance. Like it can hurt them. That's again with
Right.
newborns, you got to really get it right. With older babies, like it doesn't really matter as much, but
Yeah.
newborns, you
Here's
got to make
here's
sure the balance is right, or it can make them sick.
here's a good comment too, right? How's it going, Paul? Pelosi is threatening to throw people in jail over the formula shortage. I mean, is she going to throw the FDA in jail? Like, what is she going to do
Yeah.
there?
Well, all
Like,
right. So, let's talk about like some of the dumb policy, because you had asked like, well, what's going to happen with like that ingredient that you were talking about, right?
right?
Well, don't worry, Joe Biden's on it. He
Oh,
invoked
oh,
the Defense Production Act, and those all the ingredients for formula, they have to sell their ingredients first thing to the plant that is still not currently operating, but maybe soon.
I mean, listen, Kevin, I don't even like to make fun of this guy, but dude, he's broken. Okay, like he seems to be so distantly removed from the issues that he's talking about that I hope it's cognitive impairment, because if it's not cognitive impairment, we've got some real problems, and we do have real problems. Like
I mean,
our
like
kids.
I don't think this is cognitive. I think like people are telling them like you need to take swift and decisive action. And Trump used the Defense Production Act related to COVID response, even though it wasn't directly related to the defense of the nation. And so that set the precedent for Joe Biden doing the same thing. This is an emergency. So what are we going to do? We're going to seize the means of production and force these companies to sell to a shuttered plant that we shut down.
Oh
It's
my God.
and instead of fixing some of the problems, like just allowing people to import it, right? Like
We
we're still not doing that. Which he is doing. He's flying C-130s over the Europe to then go grab formula and bring it back. Like
oh,
Joe Biden, we can do that. Like there are companies that can do that. You just gotta let them do it. They're perfectly happy to put it on their own transports to get it over here.
they
You
would.
just gotta
Yeah,
let
but
them.
that would be, they would gouge the prices. Those corporate raiders, they would gouge
No,
them. They would just.
it's not FDA approved. Now,
Oh,
is it unsafe? Well, it is safe, but it's not FDA approved.
I don't know. Have you seen any Europeans that like look healthy to you? They're all messed up. Their FDA, whatever their version of the FDA is obviously not doing its job.
It's the same thing. They're fine. It's
It's
it's it's perfectly fine. In fact, parents go and try to get this stuff because some parents prefer it. That's all they'd have to do. Now, well, don't worry. Congress though is also on this, because
they
what
are
they've done today is they passed a bill that is going to solve the problem
all of the problem.
by giving more money to the FDA. That's right, folks. We're giving another $28 million to the FDA so they can hire more inspectors and processors so they can figure out ways to get that European formula approved. No,
They
they're not going to just allow the importation of European formula. They're going to get more FDA inspectors so that maybe they can start thinking about it.
how
Thank
many
you,
more?
government. That it's only going to be $28 million for new staff.
how many more FDA inspectors would we need to inspect a product that's already been inspected by the European counterpart of the FDA, and Europeans are already feeding it to their baby? How many United States FDA inspectors
Well,
will
you
it
gotta
take
get the labeling right,
to make that
Tim.
decision?
You know,
Oh, right.
the labeling is slightly different in Europe, and it doesn't meet FDA standards. So
Is it in English?
so they're gonna have to make sure that they get them to comply with those standards, and then maybe in 6 to 8 months we can start importing more European formula.
That sounds like how moving at the speed of government, I like to call that stuff, right? Only the
Yeah,
government can do this. Like the Defense Production Act, when this poor plant over in my small town over by Delhi, right? They probably had to dump out this incredibly expensive ingredient that gets spread through children's bodies and makes them healthier. They probably had to dump it down a toilet. And and we can't import the stuff from Europe, and we have tariffs on baby formula from Canada. And guys, this is a clown world that we're living in. It's an absolute mess, and I think that there's only one way to fix it, and that's to empower guys like me and Kevin who want you to think about voting for Larry Sharp, Thomas Daniel Queter, Sean Hayes, Andrew Hollister, and William K. Schmidt.
I'm being subtle about it.
And we are so subtle, brother. We are. I'm just saying, like, we've got to make a change somehow, because this two-party system and the systems that they've crafted that are purportedly for our safety and purportedly not to just protect their friends that are in the business, and purportedly not to just fill their campaign coffers with money. And the tariffs that are there, why are tariffs there again? Are we punishing people with tariffs, or what are we doing? We propping up US businesses? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, kind of seems like the tariffs on the European formula and other industries too are there to protect the interests of American companies from potential competitors. Again, when we do this, though, when we limit our market both by domestic regulation and international trade barriers, turns out when something gets disrupted in that market that's controlled by only a handful of players, you can create chaos and leave families struggling to find food for their kids.
But you can always go and use the Freedom Variance formula for baby formula, and the CPS will show up and take your
probably
kid, and they will find your kid baby formula. How's that sound?
There you go.
That's a system, because it takes a village to raise your kids, and that's the village.
Just throwing a little government kidnapping in there. That's it. That'll fix it. Let the state raise your kids. So actually, I'm gonna talk about this show because I've seen this a bunch too. Like
I've seen this a bunch too.
Buy and send formula to the southern border. Like, so listen, I'm not mad about that, only because the reason why so much formula is getting sent to the southern border is because the Biden administration has detained so many families and has them in detention for so long that they need to feed these kids. Like, if you're gonna have babies in your detention, like, you got to feed them, and so
you're obligated to feed them. That's true.
Yeah, that's what, when you're seeing pictures of, like, pallets of formula on the southern borders, because the Biden administration, like, I know a lot of conservatives don't believe me when I say this, but they've detained a lot of people. Like, there's just so many people in detention camps. Like, it's still a thing, like, from the Trump days when people were like, oh my goodness, like, he's setting up these concentration camps. It's still a thing. It's where a bunch of families are, and that's
they have Conex boxes loaded with children down there, like, with one window cut in and a butterfly on the wall. Man, I mean, it's a human rights violation. We should do a show exclusively about immigration, because that's another area where I think I can persuade people a little bit. Like, I'm not an open borders guy per se, all right, but the whole system is so wrong. But I don't think tonight's the night, because we have other things that we promised each other we would talk about, right?
We did say we were going to talk about, and we're not talking about this for long, but Shelly's like, are you guys aware of the bike rack shortage in New York? I'm aware that there are not enough bike racks in Rochester, and it makes me so mad because I bike everywhere now, and I'm like, man, what do I hook this to? It's Bike Week in Rochester. Just nothing that I don't think it's a policy issue. I just got to go, like, knock on a bunch of businesses and tell them I will not give them my money until they build a bike rack.
They could collaboratively buy a bike rack, but probably what would happen is if they didn't get the right permits for the bike rack, the government would come and take the bike rack and scrap it.
And then levy a hefty fine on top of that.
That's true. I could see that happening.
Probably. I don't know. Does it?
You need to have do you have an office of bike rack installation and permitting in Rochester? Because
that probably
if you have one of those, then
if not,
you
there
will
will
have
be
more
one.
bike racks, I think. Or will it not work like that?
So I'll say Rochester's actually pretty good about like doing biking infrastructure stuff, but like the bike rack thing hasn't caught up yet. Like they did a bunch of like artsy installations around like my neighborhood, but they're few and far between. So I'm like, man, just street signs like fine to park to, just not preferred.
In Hartford, Connecticut, they have bikes just sitting on the ground for people to pick up and ride. Do they have that in Rochester?
Well, you gotta unlock them with an app.
Yeah,
so
something like
we got the bikes and the scooters.
I'm not riding a bike, so I don't know, but they're just laying on the ground. I could walk over and pick one up.
Yeah. It's not like a free bike thing. Like you have to download an app and it's like $1 an hour or something.
I thought it was like a government provided service.
No, it's actually in Rochester. It's a private company. Like they get an exclusive contract with the city.
Oh, okay.
So they're the only bike provider. Like it used to be Pace, and then it became something else, and then now a new company has it because Pace they didn't have GPS trackers on it. It's terrible. Like I like those bikes, but people would like just spray paint them black and like use them as their bikes, or they'd like throw them in the river and stuff. So like this new company, like I think they put GPS trackers on all their stuff so they could, if they see a bike that hasn't been connected for a while, they can go and chase it down.
It's
sad that you got to do that, but
you would need some way to control your inventory because I guess I figured there was some way to control ownership of the bike, but I just thought it was the neatest thing. I went to pick up somebody at the train station and there was just bikes everywhere. And I'm like,
yeah,
this is so cool.
So yeah, it is a cool thing. Like when I was in Miami and Chicago and stuff, like if I'm going between places, I'll just take a metro. I'm a weird libertarian. I like public transportation. And I like micromodal stuff like this.
You're not
like,
a real libertarian.
No, trains are great. Like if I can go take a metro to somewhere, like cool. The bus in Miami was terrible, but the train was great. Like I had 2 buses just like not show up, and then a third one was like so packed, and I'm like on this bus trying to get my luggage to Miami Beach. It was awful. It's probably where I got COVID. I blame that.
Yeah. I could that sucks.
Back odor. I mean, like a lot of
I would never use public transit because of my fear of COVID.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. That's the reason you're not using that. You could be taking that to your job, and what are you doing instead? Just using the car. This is why we have a gas problem, and why Congress needed to pass legislation to stop price gouging of gasoline. You see that segue I did there?
Guys, that was an epic segue. And guys, this is the issue that we've been waiting for all day. It's just like the perfect example of how there's not a basic understanding of economics in the government. And even though a lot of these guys are older than I am, they have no recollection of what happened in the 1970s when we started trying to control prices. And I just can't wait, guys, for how much fun we're all going to have with this.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it worked out, like all the lines, and we'll do the license plate thing again with the even and odd numbers. Yeah, it's going to be great.
It was.
I mean, I'm gonna be fine because I ride my bike around. But you, Tim,
I'm gonna be PO'd. I'm gonna be pissed, guys. I'm gonna be really mad.
All right. So let's talk about we should talk about the actual bill though. Like what
do it.
We're talking about. All right. So Congress passed this bill today. 217 to 203, 217 Democrats to 203 Republicans. So almost all the Democrats. Almost all the Republicans voted no, to their credit, on this one. And it says that it's meant to stop a price gouging, but it says that they are not allowed to charge someone that a price that grossly exceeds the average, right? Whatever that means, whatever grossly exceeds mean. So essentially they're asking you to charge below average. You can't go too far above average, ill-defined by the government, whatever bureaucrat's going to be able to enforce this.
Your local bureaucrat is going to wave his angry finger at your gas station and be like, "You're charging above average." Everybody must be below average, or else.
That's
Let's
how
name
averages work.
Just,
Just make everyone below average.
that's
And
it.
and
Demand.
and
Look, so first thing, everybody must be below average. Obviously, that's like, I think, a hilarious way of explaining just how dumb these people are. But who's going to get hurt by this bill if it passes through the Senate and gets signed by the president? Who's going to get hurt by this? Places that have a hard time getting gas already, places that have other expenses like high taxes, like they will stop buying gas, they will stop selling gas practically immediately. Guys, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, because like the margins are pretty thin on gasoline. Like your average gas station isn't making a ton of money off of this stuff.
The final seller makes nothing. They make
Yeah.
nothing. They make an a really small amount compared to what the government makes. The government makes like $1 a gallon. Your local guy selling a gallon of gas makes like a penny, right? Off that gallon of gas. The government gets $1. It's like, and people are like, "Oh, the greedy price gougers," and everybody's got to be below average. And it's just an amazing dystopian pile of nonsense.
Yeah, just like the lack of math awareness on this bill, like again, as if Democrats could like will everyone to like lower their prices based on some average that someone somehow is going to determine in the area. Again, like by what area are they defining it? Like, it's not entirely clear from at least the parts of this bill that I read. Again, is it based on a town? Is it based on a county? Is it based on like what? Where do you determine it?
Just imagine a situation where, and again, guys, like there's one economic set of rules in a gas near a gas station, and then 5 blocks over there's a different set of economic rules. The gas station that's in the poorer neighborhood is probably experiencing more crime, but if they're forced to charge the same for their gas as the less crime ridden area, they're going to stop selling gas and they're going to go out of business. And so what we're actually doing is limiting opportunity in places where it's more expensive to sell gas. They're going to not sell gas. And then there's going to be gas shortages. And if we mess with and so on some level, look, supply and demand is already messed with. It's already broken. It's already a wreck. Okay. But the more government messes with that, the more likely it is that we're going to experience real shortages and real problems for real people all over the country getting gas. And maybe that's by design. I know people are talking about 2030 and Agenda 2021. And look, the closer we get to these dates, we see that pieces of the agenda are put into place. So like we can be paranoid and crazy, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but here we are. We're facing a gas crisis in our modern world, right? Like that.
So yeah, I always go back to like, I don't believe in the conspiracy. I believe in government incompetence. When politicians are like, "Gosh darn it, we just need to do something to help our people." I know. Let's stop price gouging. Listen, this is gonna be a controversial. I am totally fine with people raising prices when there's a scarcity of supply. Like it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Right. There's no such thing as price gouging. If you don't need it, you won't pay that amount of money for it. If you do need it, you will. That's it. And there's
exactly. And if someone charges too much, higher than the market's willing to bear, then they won't be able to move that product.
That's it. They pay their price. I remember the COVID thing when people were hoarding hand sanitizer for profit, and the costs were going in like confiscating their hand sanitizer. So then what do they do with the hand sanitizer? Do they redistribute it? Do they get to keep it? Like what happens? Like let that guy lose his money on that hand sanitizer when everybody and their mom started making hand sanitizer out of alcohol and hand lotion. I mean, just let the market do its job and everybody's going to be fine. And besides, that was an artificial demand. Like hand sanitizer was doing nothing to stop COVID. So whatever. The government created artificial demand.
Hand sanitizer. Did you? This is a slight aside, but did you see that there's like something like 40,000 gallons of like hand sanitizer just like hanging out in the Utica area that's unused. They're not sure what to do with it. They're
I
like way overproduced.
imagine that. Just imagine
Sorry,
that the artificial
700,000 gallons. Excuse me. Uh,
the artificial demand created by the government has now created a huge pile of waste that somebody's going to have to deal with. I it's I mean, if I could write a book and predict like you're calling it incompetence and it is incompetence, all right? But I just feel like it's so incompetent that it can't be accidental anymore. And maybe they're so dumb they just are playing into unwittingly into the hands of people that are more competent at this. But 100,000 gallons of hand sanitizer. What are we going to do
excuse
with
me.
that?
No, $700,000. Again, Shelly is asking on YouTube, where's the free hand sanitizer Cuomo
What's-
promised us? Again, it's hanging out in like a field in Utica. Um,
They
you
used
know,
prison labor to make it. Like it was like
sure did.
people were
Underpaid
like, yeah.
prisoners.
People were like, yeah, make prisoners make us hand sanitizer. And I'm like, you guys don't understand human rights at all. Like literally knock it off. Like, oh, it was so bad.
Yeah, I'll share a link to a tweet about that. I don't know if Shelly's on Twitter, but look at the tweet.
Apparently, no one's on Twitter, Kevin.
No one's on Twitter.
97% of everyone on Twitter is a bot.
They're all
That's
bots.
what I heard.
That's Elon Musk has uncovered it.
He did it on purpose, that crafty guy. And did you see, like, I don't know, just coincidentally, like every single news story now, every night is talking about how Tesla's self-driving vehicles are crashing all over the place. And I'm so disappointed. Like, number one, like it's obvious that the news cycle needs to turn negative against Elon Musk because he's everybody's like villain now, or the mainstream media's villain because he's pointing out some of their inconsistencies. I never thought he was a superhero. I want to be clear about that. Like I think he's a grifter, okay? Like I think he's smart. I think the Teslas are cool looking vehicles. I think electric vehicles on some level are interesting and compelling, and they may provide an avenue of transportation in the future. So he's cool, but he basically shakes down government entities for great deals, great tax rates, great buildings, and the local taxpayers are picking him up because he provides some good jobs. So he's a genius like that. Now, is he an inventive genius? I don't know. Like, what has he invented? He basically he's like Bill Gates, like, write me a program. Oh, hey, here's my new battery. Like he does that.
Yeah.
So I do like Elon Musk more now that the left hates him. I'll be perfectly honest. Sorry.
It's a contrarian.
Yes, I am. And so is he, which I like. But maybe now
Steve Becker says maybe convicts can make gasoline.
Nice.
That's how we're going to end up with somehow no one can get it, but there's going to be an overabundance of gasoline sitting in a field somewhere.
Oh my God, that's going to be the result of this. And so now, okay, conservatives, slow it down, right? They're like, okay, with that Emergency Defense Authorization Act, like he should enact that and start drilling. And it's like, all right, like, can we just like, this is
also
like,
no.
Can we stop rolling down this communism road? Can we stop rolling down this central planning road? Like it just, we need to kick it back a notch. And
I mean, it's probably what's going to end up happening is like he's going to start demanding that oil companies drill on some sites, even though a lot of oil companies are like, well, no, it doesn't really make profitable sense for us, and he's going to make them do it.
Then
it's
be the wrong kind of oil. It'll be like the kind of oil you want to put in grease bearings, but not the kind of oil you want to burn in your car.
So there's no problem that government can't make worse through their intervention. Like it's incredible. You love to see it.
It is their one talent that no doubt they can mess it up.
Gosh darn it.
I'm in favor of energy independence. We need to dial back some of the draconian measures that have kind of cut our ability to increase supply. Even if it hadn't actually cut our ability to supply, it cut our ability to increase supply. And there's some legislation that prevents insurance companies. There's some increases in environmental regulations. These things are part of the problem. And then the devaluation of the dollar, guys, always plays a role in these things. And this is where I might make some of you mad again, my conservative buddies, but like Trump was a great devaluer of the dollar. He just got away with it for a little bit longer because didn't have quite all the supply shocks coming at him at once,
Yeah. Well, it's like the consequences of his overspending and his, other policies too, like the tariffs and stuff, exacerbated the supply shock side of it.
Yeah. Some of
we
Trump's
didn't
tariffs,
we didn't see some of that till the Biden administration. Not the Biden administration has been better. They've in fact probably been a
been
lot worse on
worse.
everything
Let's
and
be fair.
exacerbated all. No, you're right. It is worse. Like let's not like quibble about that. It is worse, but you know, Trump accelerated this too. Like it's all bad.
Look, Trump was an authoritarian, and he was funny and witty, and he believed in energy independence. And then after that, I'm kind of like, I'm iffy on him, Like I don't know. He did help expose, even though I think Kevin, I knew it long before other people understood it as well as I did, that the news media plays games with people's heads. Okay, they're fake. They offer opinion-based stuff, and they mess with people's emotions for attention. They're like the ultimate narcissist, right? So they're corporate narcissists or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
he did a great job exposing that, and I don't know. But then when I say we went from Biden to Trump, to Obama, it's like to Bush. I'm just like, I'm not convinced that we're getting the best and brightest to lead this country. I'm just not convinced.
No, it's what's that Douglas Adams quote? Anyone who wants to I'm gonna butcher
I
this.
don't. You can butcher it. We can butcher it. Just it's if anyone wants to be president, that person should unequivocally never be president. Like that's it. They're unqualified to rule if they
There you go.
actually want
Anyone
to rule.
capable of getting themselves made president should on no account be allowed to do the job. That's the quote.
He was so good with words. I read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy like 4 times, man. The complete ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which included So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and several other of his vignettes.
Yeah, no, he had some good ones. We'll get some comments too. Paul says drilling for oil is tricky. The last place government should be is in the drilling business. They need to go back and work on their disinformation board or wherever it was. Paula, respectfully disagree. First part, yes. Second part, no. They can leave their disinformation board behind. Like I am glad that project is on pause. I hope it is dead. They did not do that.
Okay, so I try to pay attention to the news. I heard but I didn't get enough information on what happened to the disinformation board. Where'd we go with that? I missed.
So you got to catch my Wednesday show, but
I saw parts of it. I apologize.
No, I get it. No, that would be a pot calling the kettle black if I criticized you for not watching the show.
Right. I get it.
But so the board is on pause now. The Biden administration just decided that they were going to reevaluate whether or not it was necessary, but they did it in part because people were, I think, correctly concerned both about the nature of the disinformation governance board, which they were a little bit vague on what powers they would have, what enforcement they would bring, what the mission and scope of their work would be. And then also people were roasting Jankowicz is her last name. I'm trying to remember what her first name is, but they're roasting the executive director of this board too, both because she had just done some goofy stuff on TikTok, sang these weird songs about disinformation and just generally odd. Plus, she had some professional qualification issues, she had done work in Central Europe and Eastern Europe too, and didn't really do a good job of being able to assess disinformation, quantity and quality that existed in those places. People had legit criticisms of her work, her qualifications. She wrote about this book about losing disinformation. Scary Poppins is gone. Yeah. Well, that is the right wing attack, Dave, on her, and they all this right wing disinformation came after her and scuttled any chance of us being able to win the information war.
Disinformation killed the disinformation board.
Yeah, honestly, I think I hope I posted that Washington Post article about it, but it's allegedly like a news-based article, but it is like an editorial screed. Like this woman, like Taylor Renz, who is the author of that article, is like so angry that like people would bash Jankowicz and like just like this is all just a right-wing attack and Tucker Carlson's going after it, and it's just the far right going after it. Doesn't mention any of the legit criticisms of again her professional qualification. Just throws out there she's qualified and no one's questioning that. And like, what? No, like lots of people are. Like, it's not just like right-wing trolls. It's like a bunch of people are like, I don't know, like we should maybe like ask about like X, Y, and Z things. And she got stuff wrong about like was still on about how the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. And it's
even
like,
though
no,
it's
like
not.
we have new information now. Like maybe that was your first hunch, and like sure, like because it was kind of my first hunch that the story was nonsense too. But like new information came out, and I was like, oh, you know what? Turned out to be true. That smelled like BS, but turns out, it's that's real. You gotta change it. And yeah, like way too. And yeah, she pushed disinformation, not reported it. Dave on Facebook. That's it's
I don't think look, I don't like Tucker Carlson. I don't enjoy his show. I've watched it enough to where I'm just like, okay, but I simply don't believe that he's as powerful as the left wants him to be. I
mean, he's the modern boogeyman. Again, I have plenty of
just
criticisms of the guy, but like, so again, like some of the criticisms of both Jankowicz and the disinformation board were on point, and you can separate that from the trollish or petty stuff. Okay,
Right.
so like maybe this was important, but like again, I don't think it's always appropriate, but like sometimes when like people are going to go do like lead Orwellian like disinformation agencies, like I'm a little okay with mocking them a bit. Like it's
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
that idea, that concept, that new way of trying to leverage the power of the government being the sole source of truth in
Oh my
order to
God,
like
Robert
punish
Reich.
and control us. Like, yeah, like that idea deserves like criticism and scorn and mockery if possible.
It's always possible, I've found, to make fun of these guys. Like Robert Reich, I just can't stand that guy. He's the king of he wants a disinformation board. He's so disappointed. And again, then we go to this Tucker Carlson vendetta where like this guy is at the center of every major act of violence in the United States right now. And like I I just don't think he's that powerful, guys. It doesn't he does I don't know.
Maybe not. Again, got my criticisms, dude, but like it wasn't just right. And again, like if again, I'm not saying like what it is or isn't right, but like for all the folks, like because the New York Times had basically the same story too, like right-wing disinformation smashed. It's like if you're actually concerned about like right-wing disinformation and you decide to ignore the legit criticism that came from across the political spectrum, like of the idea, in addition to the absolutely horrendous PR rollout that the Department of Homeland Security had to, like they just were not very good at explaining like what this was intended to do, which made people like uneasy for reasons, like for obvious reasons. Like, what do you mean? Like, why won't you answer these questions about like why don't you be clear about like what this is or isn't? And that made people across the political spectrum uneasy. Joe Biden and the Department of Homeland Security didn't fold because Tucker Carlson was making fun of Jankowicz on TikTok. Like, that's not why they did that. Probably there's enough people within the circles who are like, this is a little bit too far. And like, it's not just, it is people within our party criticizing it too. But like, if you're actually concerned about like right-wing disinformation, now you've told them like, oh, mocking this person from the far right, like that's what worked. We're empowered. Like we've succeeded in taking down this Orwellian agency, instead of like acknowledging the actual truth of, well, all this other stuff ended up coming together to get the administration to put this on pause. If they had done a straight news article, it would have been less helpful to the far right that they say they're trying to, stop. It drives me like the amount of times that like the left shoots themselves in the foot over this type of stuff is just
how many
again, it would be hilarious if there weren't also dangerous people on the right.
Yeah. How many feet does the left have, bro? Because they shoot themselves in the feet and they keep marching at us and putting their boots on our neck.
I know,
I
right?
don't get it.
Too many.
I just don't get it. Shelley brings up Buffalo and Biden there today. I don't know how he did. I'm sure he did horribly. I'm sure there's some major gaffes out there on Fox News. Um, what I again don't like is their ability to instantly capitalize on a tragedy. There's a hero that they could celebrate. There's issues that they could answer, and the way to answer the issues that is not to punish more law-abiding citizens and turn more law-abiding
Mhm.
citizens into felons. It's to recognize that we've abridged human rights in areas because there's law-abiding citizens there who don't know how or are afraid to even learn how to defend themselves, and that's on the government. And guys, and they'll never talk about the fact that the COVID lockdowns were a bad idea for young people. They were horrible for them. And like that is a reality. I'm going to keep saying it until everybody understands it. Like we've got to do better, man. And there's ways to do better. Again, let's put in a plug for our friend Larry Sharp. Larry
Yep.
Sharp already has solutions to these ideas, already recognizes the problems in a very similar way as to I do. And so does Thomas Daniel Creeder. As a matter of fact, Sean Hayes. These guys have good ideas. They have good solutions, and they want to be proactive in changing the dynamic of governance in the state. And what we're doing instead is let's kill the kid. Let's take everybody's guns. Like,
Yeah.
these aren't solutions. This is just one more step down that path of trying to make us crazy and keep us at each other's throats. And I refuse to go there, other
Yeah.
than I'll rant on Facebook.
That's fair. That's that's what Facebook is for
Yeah,
now. All right.
it's probably getting there, Kevin.
It's probably good. I know we haven't done any like fake news. I don't know if you came prepared with any of them, but
Do you have one? I didn't come prepared because the news again, for the most part, is so baffling. Like, we could have said, did they just pass a law that says we're going to
I
punish
know,
people who
right?
charge more than the average price for gasoline in an area? Like, who would believe that? What
I
sane
know,
person
like
would
it
be
just
like, great idea?
yeah.
I guess somebody, but I don't think they would be sane.
Someone
I don't
thought it
know.
was a good idea. I know. Like I had this. I had the there's this thing with Dr. Oz going around who's running for Senate, and you tell me if this is true or not. Did he say this? When you go to bed at night, put your head on that soft pillow. You'll know Oz will be doing exactly what you want him to do if you were next to him. You say that during an interview.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm sure that he did because he's kind of a weird dude. There's some about him that I don't like.
No.
But also he's been interviewed hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
So yes, he said it. I
You
know
said
he
it.
must
Yeah.
have.
It was just awkward. Like I get like I don't like some people are like, oh my goodness, what a creepy is. I'm like, it's something came out awkward. Like far
Wrong.
be it for me. Like there's plenty to criticize about Dr. Oz, but far be it for me for you know, thinking ill of him merely because he put his foot in his mouth, which I have certainly done at
Yeah,
least a couple times on a free
yeah.
solution. But yeah, it just came out awkward as heck, and he's
It,
it was funny.
I can forgive him for that. I can't forgive him for other things probably, but I don't. It looks like he won. So congratulations to Donald J. Trump, I
Hooray.
guess, because he's the one that pushed him over the top. I don't know.
Yeah. No, so like I had that, I had the the White House complaining that they have to ration, COVID vaccines because they're out of COVID funding, but they also redirected a bunch of unspent COVID money to fund police officers, which is
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean,
it's
I don't
it's
know.
it's so. First of all, it's so complicated that it has to be true. Um, but second of all, yeah, they definitely all they do is complain about not having money when they print money out of thin air and give it to, and for them, there's never enough money ever. So that's it. That's their excuse. That's
Yeah.
a bizarre twist on rationing COVID vaccines now. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. They did it.
So
They said
I
it,
don't
right?
even know. Yeah, they did. They did do that. Just
That's not a
wild.
foot in the mouth thing, though. That's a
No, though, like that, that's like a stupid intentional policy. Like, oh my goodness, we need to spend more money on COVID stuff because like we're running out. But also, like, we took all this money that was earmarked for COVID stuff and decided to give it to police, even though like the Democrats are all on, the defund the police train.
yeah.
Not too long ago.
A lot of our a lot as you'll see if you pay attention, a lot of our county boards and counties have extra COVID funds left over, and they're handing it out as bonuses to department heads. I don't know if you caught that
Amazing.
when I put on my page, but it's leftover COVID money. They feel obligated to spend it. So, top to bottom,
Bonuses.
$80,000. Just here you go. There's no, and then, but they're not done, Kevin. They're going to give money to the county employees. And in Otsego County, that's actually a justice because the Otsego County is one of the lowest paid county employee systems in New York State. And they for decades treated these people poorly because they answered the demands of Mario Cuomo and every other rich person in the world. And the county employees, they can get them to work for this, so that's what they do. And so they're going to get bonuses too, I imagine. But man, it I don't know. How much does a county department head's vote cost? Approximately $10,000. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. All right. So I got one more thing for you. This is falls into the category of our amazing libertarian future. Headline: you tell me if it's real or fake. This motorcycle vest will stop working if you airbag vest will stop working if you miss a payment. Real or fake?
Okay.
Is this the libertarian future we wanted, Tim?
This is the libertarian future we want. If you agree to pay for something and the person can control it from yet it's got to be real, man. And in a way, if you don't fully pay for a product, you shouldn't have the benefits of that product, right?
Yeah, it's they decided like a way to make there is a company that decided that the way to make a airbag for motorcycles more affordable is by doing a subscription based model. And so you don't pay your subscription, then yeah, it won't work anymore.
That sounds like the Microsoft Office business plan. Like, isn't that what they
You
did?
can buy it outright too,
Okay.
or you can do the subscription based model for $12 a month.
And if you stop paying, the airbag will not deploy.
That's the case. Again, that's
I'm gonna stick with my Microsoft Word 2013. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, that's interesting. That is kind of a libertarian solution, isn't it? I don't.
I mean, like I like a bunch of people are like mocking it, but like I don't totally hate it because it like you get the thing and then you're like, well, I only really ride a few months out of the year, so
I don't need it in the winter.
don't need it in the winter. I pay $36 a year to turn it on for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you get the cheaper version because you still have to buy the thing. Like you just don't buy the whole thing outright.
Right.
Just as long as like your car doesn't go down and you forget.
Yeah.
And you have a 30-day grace period if
you
your car is
change your
declined.
card number and they can't access your money, and you're relying on that airbag to save your life. Like, let's say you decide that you're going
It's
to
a
use
30-day
the airbag
grace period. You got to pay attention.
Yeah. All right. I think that's fair. I would try to buy it outright, though, guys. If you're going to get a motorcycle airbag, buy it
Oh,
outright.
yeah,
That's my
something you want.
recommendation.
It's in inbox is the name of the product.
All right.
But we might get the same thing, right? Might get it in cars, especially like the electric vehicles that have all the bells and whistles, right? Oh, hey, guess what?
They're crashing all over the place according to the news cycle right now because the mainstream media is mad at Elon Musk. We're never going to have self-driving cars. We're never going to have flying cars because everybody loves their stupid roads and their stupid gas. I'm sick of it.
That's the problem. Tim, you are part of the problem.
Get
your bike like me.
It's 190 miles to work, Kevin. I'm not riding a bike.
It's fine. Hey, before we go, I wanna throw, like, someone had asked me, like, what beer I was drinking the other day,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm gonna throw out, like, I am drinking a local beer this time, and
Nice.
I told you, like, what I was drinking, previously too, is it's called Hammer Time IPA, from Sager Beer Works, and I only mentioned it because, like, we're gonna start having a PSA on a free solution on the radio show for
All right.
the organizations that's benefited by the sale of this beer. So it's like a tool library
The
in the
tool
city of
library.
Rochester.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
All
they're
right.
now up to 100 members. They're growing, but we're gonna have
Oh,
a PSA running on WYSL during a free solution. Just because it's open to not just folks in the city, not just people in the neighborhood where like this organization is based, but like really like anyone who like wants to come and go there. $25 a year, you can rent 5 tools at a time, and then they have
nice.
tiers of membership that if you want to rent even more tools, like it's goes up to like 50, 100, etc.
That's so cool. I think that's a great concept. I love it. Maybe I'm gonna go clean out my trailer and see if I got any tools I want to send up your way. You can just throw them in that tool library.
Heck yeah, appreciate it. But so yeah, that's the it's a Seek Tool Shed, SEAC toolshed.org. If you live in the Rochester area, come check it out. Or if you live outside the Rochester area and you want to make a donation, send me a message on my page, and I can make an arrangement to pick it up because we still do need tools. Like it's been active. Like lots of people have come in and gotten it again.
That's great.
Homeowners sometimes who again just might not be able to afford getting that circular saw for just one thing,
Yeah.
or people who are like they're trying to break into the contracting business and they need to have like a handful of tools that like their employer doesn't provide. They need to have their own, so they as they're starting to get into it, they rent these tools, and they can rent them long term too.
Yeah.
So
People are having a tough time with it. I mean, I believe that motorcycle airbags exist.
oh
I
yeah.
don't know how they work either. So people
Well,
have
I
to be
mean, basically, it deploys like a balloon over your chest, and like it's supposed to go over your head too. So like it's not gonna protect you in the same way that a car would, but like if you fly off the bike, it provides a little bit more like cushion and stability, so you're less likely to like
Well,
get
I'd much
injured.
rather
In
fly down the
theory,
road than mash my chest into the handlebars of my motorcycle. So
yeah, and it's supposed to go off like as soon as like there's that like rapid momentum change, so it's supposed to help that too, which
oof, yeah. All right. All
in
right. Well,
theory, again, I don't ride a motorcycle, so I don't know. I've researched like bicycle like airbag vests, which are operate in a similar way,
yeah.
but and Shelly, to answer your question, is Tool Library look to expand? Yeah, I mean, like again, it launched like April 1st, and yeah, I mean, like we're still looking for new tools and everything, and trying to meet the demand of folks who are borrowing again. Most folks have been great. They need to borrow something for a weekend to complete a project. They bring it back. Most folks have been great. So it's so far been nice, and good thing the nonprofit organizations do, and just try to help folks.
My wife got a dog. Besides her new fascination with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and plainly, obviously taking the side of Johnny Depp, we also got her a dog. Not we, her kids
You
bought her a
got
dog.
you got people arguing in the comments up up earlier in the show too.
Yep. Yeah,
You
listen,
got
I
new
know.
you got a new pup though.
Yeah,
What's
check
the
it out. Wait till you
what's
see
the
this
pup's
thing.
name?
This is
Ah,
Ella. Ella doesn't want to look at the camera. She wants to chew me in the face. Oh, that's right. No. What is it? A Shih Tzu? Shih Tzu?
Shih Tzu.
Shih Tzu. Just
Very
a
cute.
friendliest little thing. Has no other use but to follow you around from room to room and try to make you trip over yourself. And to be really cute, which it does. Like it does that. My wife loves
Nice.
it. So do I. Mooney was a little jealous, but she got over it. They're kind of pals now.
That's good.
Well, Kevin, this is one of our longest shows ever.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like we didn't have like the actual break, so it's gonna be a long show to post on the podcast, because I'm just gonna put it in.
Yeah, and guys, thanks for being here. Look, like Dave and Shelly and Chuck, and Facebook user number 712, and Paula. Guys, you make the show like enjoyable for me. I started my day at like 4 o'clock in the morning in Connecticut, and then I drove all the way from Connecticut to West Winfield, New York, and then I came back here to do the show just for this. I had a blast, bud.
Yeah, that was a good time. Love
Yeah.
it. So we're gonna try to do this more regularly. Hopefully every week. But like if not, then we'll try to do as often as possible.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to look. I have a mission of finding some rational Democrats to have discussions with on a free solution, and I found one. I'm going to see if he's going to be interested in doing a live with me. He's actually interested in signing a petition for Larry Sharp, and I'm kind of excited about the possibility that we can make some positive change this election cycle, Kevin.
So got to keep fighting for it.
Yes, we will. I will anyway.
Yeah. I know.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
Yeah. Take care, folks. Thanks for joining us.